Before we start, Andy, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to our podcast sponsors, Money Farm. Now, Money Farm are the largest digital wealth manager in Europe, and they create portfolios of ETFs for their clients. They're incredibly cheap and ideal for somebody who's wanting to get into investing, and perhaps for more experienced investors who don't actually want to run their own money anymore. Now, they will even offer to run the first £20,000 of any of our listeners' portfolio absolutely free if they enter the code MTTM20K into the website at moneyfarm.com. For more information, check out their website. But for now, Andy, let's get back on with the show.
Hello and welcome to episode 168 of the Money to the Masses podcast with your resident expert, as always, Damien Fay and me, Andy Leakes. Damien, how are you doing? Keeping warm?
Keeping warm, Andy. I've got you probably can tell if you hear my voice, I've got a bit of man flu. So when the beast from the east arrived, I decided to take a bit of a snow day with the kids, and I think I'm now paying the price for that fun. So that's why I sound like this. But Andy will omit and edit out all the coughs and sputters, so it won't sound too horrendous, so don't switch off. But yeah, I'm now feeling sorry for myself with a bout of man flu. And if this was a online video, so if we did like Facebook Live, people would see me looking like I've just got out of bed, because I have just got out of bed and I'm recording this. So Andy can vouch for my dishevelled state.
Well, you are a trooper as always, and I tell you what, you're right, we've had a snow week this week, and my children have been off school and been loving playing out in the snow, although they're kind of over it now. And one thing I did notice about having a snow week is how technology has improved, and I wonder how many businesses are reaping the rewards of sort of integrating home working as part of the flexible working, because obviously trains have been screwed this week, and I basically haven't lost a single hour's worth of work because of the snow, because I've just been able to work from home. So I'd be interested if someone does any sort of stats on that, whether, you know, we're better off, our economy is better off as a result of technology advances. What do you think?
But one of the interesting things about that is that as technology has come into the economy over time, there is this productivity enigma, because the statistics, when they look at the Bank of England, and they actually run statistics about productivity in the economy, and they've actually started trying to work out why workers have become less productive over time, even though technology has arrived. And one of the theories is that people become distracted by the incessant emails and means of being be able to be communicated. Your boss is always, do you mean you never switch off, so you never focus, and it's that distraction, they reckon, has actually caused productivity to dip, despite the fact that technology should have done the opposite. So there's an enigma, and the government are trying to resolve that, and it's not just here, it's a global phenomenon, it's in the US too. So it's actually a good question, but there you go. Technology is great, it should make us better, but it doesn't always.
Okay. So what have we got coming up on the pod this week?
Right, I'm going to go through the pod at the usual rate of knots, particularly this week, before I wilt and lose my voice. But we're going to just mention something very brief on investing. Debt. So if you have credit card debts, you need to listen to the piece on credit cards. We're going to talk about, one thing I'm going to just quickly mention is prescription charges, and something called deep fake scams. And I don't know if you've ever heard of a deep fake scam, Andy. I hadn't, but we're going to come on to that.
Okay. So credit cards first?
Let's go with credit cards. Right, now what's happened is the FCA have created new rules that will come in from September 2018 that are aiming to protect consumers. Now, it will apparently affect around 4 million credit card holders. And what is going to happen, that lenders will have to get in touch with the customers if they are struggling to meet their payments. And by that, I mean if they're not clearing their debt within an 18-month period. So what the aim of these rules are trying to help people from, or to stop them just disappearing under a pile of debt. And the way they will judge this is if in 18 months period, so an 18-month period, your interest and fees and charges that are applied to your credit card is bigger than the debt that you've managed to repay. So if you're paying the minimum, that is probably going to likely to happen, especially if you've got a large debt, then you're going to be one of these people that the credit card companies will have to contact, and they will tell you or advise you to increase your minimum that you're paying. So rather than paying the minimum amount, you've got to pay more to try and clear your debt. And it goes a stage further because they can actually be forced to close your credit card to stop it working, so you can't accrue any more debts. The debt will still be there, but they will stop you allowing you to spend more money on the credit card, which will mean that they will likely contact the credit rating agencies out there to tell them about what's happening, which will obviously show on your credit report, but they will likely also invoke a repayment plan to help you clear that debt. So this is an FCA initiative, new rules that will save consumers millions and millions and millions of pounds collectively. But it is worth knowing because there are a lot of people out there who only pay the minimum, even if they can afford to pay more. And as it's a kind of a snow day week, I thought I'd give people homework. I don't know about you, Andy, but some schools were, even though it was snowing, they were closed this week, they were still trying to set their kids homework, which I think is outrageous, but I've got to do the same. So anyway,
I saw a really nice email from one of the schools, and they said, children, as you know, it's a snow week this week, and so here is your homework set to you by your headmaster. And it basically went through a whole list of things, and it looked like the children had been set so much homework, but it was basically, number 1, dress up warm. Number 2, build a snowman. Number 3, have fun. Number 4, take pictures and memories. Number 5, enjoy yourself. And number 6, come back to school next week with happy memories. Kind of like that. And I just thought that was a nice little touch. You know, basically a school realising that this doesn't happen very often. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, and I like that. And one of the things I want people to do is, if you remember, at the end of 2017, we did a video series on YouTube and it was on Facebook where it was under the hashtag We Need to Talk About Money. That was on our social media channels. And one of the videos that I did was Become Debt-Free Sooner. Now, in that video, I explained how somebody, like an average person with an average amount of debt in the UK, will pay typically £150 a month minimum payment. That's going to be the absolute minimum they pay under the current rules. That will take them about 33 years to clear that debt. But I explained how, by paying no more than what they were currently paying, there was a way in which they could clear that debt in just over 5 years and save themselves thousands of pounds worth of interest. So go and watch it and share it. So there's a bit of homework rather than me explain. It's only a 60-second video, so go on YouTube and find it. It's one of the early videos we did in that series. So there you go, Andy.
You've also talked before, it might even feature in that video, maybe it doesn't, but you've also talked before about buying perishable items like sandwiches and things like that on a credit card is just absolutely crazy, because that sandwich and the packaging and everything else would have been and gone, even decomposed and everything, before you'd actually paid off the debt. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of a rough tip that if you're buying something and the level of interest and the amount of debt will take you, however long it will take you to pay it off on your credit card, then you should only buy things that will last that long. So you're getting the use for the full term. And so a sandwich will be gone in about 10 minutes, but you'll be paying the interest probably for about 5 years. So just a quick one. I saw this on Facebook to do with cold weather. It's going to be completely useless once this podcast comes out because we're going to be in spring. But one for the future. I don't know if you saw it, Andy. There was a whole raft of people in this severe cold whose boilers were breaking down. And I saw something that was shared by a plumber on Facebook. They explained that there's a pipe that goes out of your boiler, outside through the wall and down into like the ground or a drain, which is a condensation pipe. And in this severe weather, that freezes and that will cause your boiler to stop working. And so if that happens and it's really cold and your boiler's not working, it's worth boiling hot water from a kettle over that pipe outside, and it will defrost the pipe and hopefully your boiler should start working. And the reason that I know that works, because my brother just did it about an hour ago when he rang me up and we were talking about it. So one for maybe the next year or whatever, the cold weather. But it was a brilliant tip, and there was loads of people on Facebook saying it worked for them. So that's a tip really for next year, I suppose, Andy.
Yeah, it is. And I've got a brilliant story on exactly that. Yesterday, my boiler broke down. And so, armed with that information that I too had sourced from Facebook, I went outside and located my pipe and poured approximately 6 kettles of boiling water. Now, bearing in mind, my condensate pipe comes out halfway up the wall because my boiler is upstairs and it comes out halfway up the wall. So I needed to climb up a ladder in the snow with a kettle of boiling hot water in my Crocs. You can imagine this is basically...
So you've been framed video in the making, isn't it, Andy?
It is. Anyway, nothing happened. Nothing in terms of like, I didn't get it wrong. I did exactly what I thought. But unfortunately, the heating didn't spring to life. And so cut to us getting an engineer around and them telling me that actually it was a faulty fan and he needed to go over the other side of England to go and locate it, as they always do, and then come back and fit it. So we were 6 hours without heating, but we got it all fixed. And when I explained to the heating engineer that I'd tried to fix it myself by locating this condensate pipe, he said, well, that's really interesting because your type of boiler doesn't have one. And I said, I've been pouring 4 kettles worth of water on this pipe on the outside, and he says, yeah, that's nothing to do with the boiler, that's the housing for the satellite dish or something. It was ridiculous.
Oh, Andy, legend.
So a good story for you there, but yeah, our heating is now working.
Good. I'm pleased.
Where were we?
Well, I don't know. Next one, investing. Should we quickly rattle off something on investing?
Yeah, let's do it. What have we got?
Right. One thing I want to ask people is, please get in touch, because I've been mulling over the idea of doing something slightly separate on investing in the future, because we don't like to date these podcasts. We talk about generic stuff, stuff that is useful so people listen backwards. I mean, I know that last piece was in a way timely, but people have been finding the investment stuff we've been talking about lately, especially with markets misbehaving, very useful. So I am toying with the idea of maybe doing a shorter, separate podcast that's just part of the feed, maybe midweek, that is just talking about what's going on in the investment markets, maybe 10 minutes long in the future. So something completely different. I don't know, this is an idea, because I do wonder if some people, they don't want to listen to the investing stuff on this podcast, or whether everyone does want it on this podcast. So get in touch and let me know. It's going to be in addition to this podcast. It's not replacing it. We might have slightly less investing stuff, or we might just move the really contemporary stuff into this new midweek slot or something like that will still come down this podcast feed. But Twitter, Facebook, let me know your thoughts. If you think it's a rubbish idea, then say so. I don't mind. We'll keep it in this show. Right, anyway, very quick one on the investment markets. In the last week, I've been doing a lot of work for 80/20 Investor, talking about technical analysis. I don't know if you remember, we talked about getting your ruler out and drawing lines on charts and suggesting people have a go themselves. So I did that for 80/20 Investor members to tell them potentially, or help them decide where markets might go. Now, it's a bit like a weather map. There's a nice link there to the snow, but like a weather forecast, you don't know, it doesn't tell you exactly what's going to happen, whether snow's going to fall or anything like that, but it gives you a range of possibilities. So if the market goes through a certain level, then that's going to be very positive and it's likely to go higher. Conversely, if it goes down through a certain level, then it's likely to go lower. Now, in the last few days of doing this podcast, it's Friday that we're doing this, and the US markets haven't closed yet, but we've had a bit of another sell-off in markets, in which kind of follows a pattern we've been talking about previously, that it wasn't going to be simply a V-shaped recovery. That was always going to be unlikely. But just to try it out there, a bit of homework for people. Get your phone out. Open up, if you've got an Apple iPhone, you're going to have that Stocks app that you've probably never looked at. Open that and have a look where the S&P 500 is, what number it's at. And in this 80/20 piece, I look at a lot of levels that are important, that it has to be above or below. It might signify where we might go in the future. But just one I will throw out there, a level of 2660, so 2,660. If that level is one of the important ones we're near at the moment, we're just hovering above it, and that is a lot of support around that level. So have a look at your phone. If we're above that, then the world hasn't ended, despite the fact it might feel like it is. If we go through that, there are other levels of support on the way down, which I talk about in my 80/20 investor piece, which obviously you can have a free trial and look at. So we are still in this uptrend at the moment, even though it might feel that there's a sell-off happening out there. But it's really a nice way of giving people a line in the sand to have an objective view on what is happening, rather than just using their emotions to judge where we're going. Before we move on, Andy, I just wanted to quickly mention 80/20 Investor. Now, 80/20 Investor is my DIY investment service. Do go and check it out. I empower and teach people how to invest their own money. The service provides data-driven fund tables. The data is driven by my own unique 80/20 Investor algorithm, which I created. You also get stop-loss alerts, you get research articles and insight, you get market commentaries, monthly commentaries and DIY investment lessons, but you also get access to my £50,000 portfolio, which is a portfolio of my own money, which I run live on the site for members to see, and it shows people how I use the service to maximise my returns. And in the first 2 years of doing so, I turned £50,000 into £59,500, which is a 19% return, beating investment managers, professional fund managers, financial advisors, investment banks, passive trackers in the market. So everybody can have a free 30-day trial of 80/20 Investor, and you can claim that by going to moneytothemasses.com and going and clicking on the 80/20 Investor hyperlink at the top of the page. So go and try the service. Let me know what you think of it, and I know from the feedback that you're going to love it. But for now, on with the show.
Okay, so maybe I'm a bit weird, but I really always enjoy the kind of scam pieces we do, only because I don't like the scammers to win, and I like it when we out them, and I like to learn about new techniques and stuff. So what have we got in this deep fake scam?
I mean, I've not heard of it.
Neither have I.
And if you're listening to this and you're sitting on your train, almost putting your hand in the air, me, I know what a deep fake scam is, then perhaps don't shout about it, because it probably means you've watched a lot of porn. Because deep fake scams are apparently where the scammers use existing video that's out there of a random person maybe doing something, saying something, but they use computers and AI to artificially put somebody else's face on a particular person. So in the scammer's world, what that could mean is that you could have a video of someone standing there telling you how wonderful an investment is or how wonderful a service is, and it could actually look like Martin Lewis standing there talking. So Martin Lewis from Money Saving Expert. I mean, that guy's had a fair few people using his image illegally to promote services, but this one they can use live, like it's feeling like real video moving, and it looks like it's him, but it's not. And the reason I mentioned porn is because that's where the technique originated, where they get these porn actresses and they superimpose famous people's heads on them to make out it is a famous person's naughty video that's been released. So it's an interesting phenomena, because I remember reading a very good tech article about this, that the porn industry is often the pioneer of a lot of advances in technology. For example, they were the industry that first really instigated online payments, age verification checks, all these things that happen that you take for granted. Some of the technology was created by or pioneered by some of these sites who are trying to make lots of money. So these type of deep fake videos are now making their way into the investing world, and there's been evidence from some financial advisors who said they have seen these videos and have saved a potential client from investing in them based upon they think the credibility of the famous celebrity back in the investment scheme. They were going to go with it and didn't. So deep fake scams, Andy, watch out. Don't always believe anything that's got a famous person endorsing it. I mean, ignoring that anyway. I don't know about you. I mean, I don't like it when famous people endorse products that they clearly don't know anything about. So
that does worry me when you see that, and it seems to be happening more and more these days. And I also think, I mean, this is not really one for the pod, this is just a personal view, but when I see, Hollywood A-list actors going into areas, I mean, think George Clooney and coffee, that have nothing really to do with them, and it's all about the dollar, all about earning that extra buck. And I think to myself, do you know what? You're a really good actor, and you're being paid well for it. And actually, do you know what? I've not got a problem with it. You deserve the money. A bit like sportsmen and the salaries that they get. I've not got an issue with footballers earning millions and millions of pounds, because they are elite athletes. And do you know what? If someone's willing to pay them, fine, you go and earn it. But my issue is when they then go around hunting around for opportunities to earn quick bucks in other areas that could potentially, endorse products that aren't necessarily the best on the market and they know nothing about, and actually they're helping to dupe innocent people, and I just don't like it. It doesn't sit right with me.
No, but on that though, I mean, I've in my day of not feeling great, I had the daytime TV on, and God, it's woeful. But there's a lot of that ambulance chasing type of service that are endorsed by a lot of the people who are on that sort of breakfast TV. I'm not going to name them, but sort of have you injury lawyers for you or whatever those sort of companies are. I'm not saying it's them, but there are others that have these kind of services that are endorsed by famous people, and I do question how much they know and whether they've used the service. But anyway, it's up to them. They get paid. It's all above board. But do beware of any celebrity endorsements. They might not be as they seem.
just to finish on that, if something ever seems too good to be true, you've said it before, Damien, I've said it before, and you hear it often said, if something seems too good to be true, it often is. So just think about it before diving in. So what else have we got coming up?
Right, before I pass out, I just wanted to remind people about prescription charges. Now, this made me think about this because I was feeling sorry for myself with my man flu. But there are a lot of people out there who might end up for a short period of time having to take quite a few different tablets. They may become ill or whatever, and they have to have a number of prescriptions. But what people don't realise often, and I didn't for a very long time, and I suffer from Crohn's. So there was a point where I took so many tablets I rattled when I walked down the street. And I didn't realise that you can get a discount on prescriptions if you end up having to have a certain number in a short period of time. So the cost of a prescription is going up from £8.60 to £8.80 in April. But if you have to have 3 or more prescriptions in a 3-month period, or 12 or more in a 12-month period, you can get a prepaid certificate, which basically you pay a one-off amount, and then all your prescriptions, you don't actually pay for them. That makes sense. So if you have 3 or more in 3 months, then the amount you pay is equivalent to 3 prescriptions. But if you end up having 4, 5, 6, 7, doesn't matter, 100 in that period, you don't pay any more than the cost of the prepaid certificate. So
it's kind of like Netflix for prescriptions. You pay one fee and you get as many as you want.
Well, I suppose you could compare it to that, Andy. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah, if you wanted to...
Well, Netflix, you pay one monthly fee and you can watch whatever you want. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, it is-ish. So just a reminder to people they might not realise, but also if they've got family and friends, particularly elderly people who are taking lots of prescriptions, that they could actually benefit from it. Because I was going in at one point, this was a few years ago when I wasn't very well, and I actually was coming away from the chemist. I was having like carrier bags. I didn't realise you could get carrier bags for your drugs, but I was coming away with like carrier bags like I'd just been properly shopping and walking up the road. And eventually I found out you could do this, and it ended up saving me a fair bit of money. So there you go, that's another one. I know I keep saying I will finish before my voice goes, but there was another thing I just wanted to throw out there. To do with April. Now, I don't know if many people realised, and this has almost passed me by to a certain extent, that the dividend tax allowance. Now, there is a dividend tax allowance whereby you can have £5,000 of dividends paid to you without paying any tax. And then above that level, there's different percentage rates based depending on whether you're basic rate, high rate taxpayer. Now, that was really attractive for people who are directors of their own firm, they're self-employed, or if you've just got investments that paid you dividends, because therefore you could actually get it tax-free up to £5,000. And some time ago they were going to talk about reducing that to £2,000, and then that got chucked out because of all the general election last year. But it's coming back. So just an FYI to people out there that if you use your dividend allowance, either through your work, whether it's through your investments, that from April the dividend allowance will drop from £5,000 to £2,000 per person. So you might need to do a bit of jiggery-pokery about your investments or dividend payments you receive if you want to not pay as much tax. So that may mean putting investments inside ISAs. It may mean if you're a husband, you might actually give some of your investments to your wife. Obviously, if you do that, she can just do what she wants with the money. She doesn't have to ask you. But it's something to bear in mind, because I think it's actually passed quite a few people by. So we've got a while before the tax year hits us. You can make some changes.
Good. We're done.
We're done, Andy. It was a shorter one, but no less packed full of information and a little bit of homework. And I'm going to go and have a lemsip. Good.
And so while you're doing that, I'll read out the important bits. So if you want to get in touch with Damien, you can do it at Money to the Masses with a number 2. That's Damien's Twitter address. And if you want to get in touch via email, of course you can. It's damien@moneytothemasses.com. And please do, as always, review the podcast if you can, and we'll be reading out some more reviews next week. Damien, we're done.
We are done, Andy. That's us done.
Good. You go and get yourself a lemsip, tuck yourself up, watch some of that awful daytime telly. In fact, I know you won't be doing that because you've already told me you've got lots and lots of work to do, so you're just going to battle on, aren't you?
I've got to battle on. Let's not pretend I'm not a nurse or a doctor or a fireman that's been going out in the snow. I'm not going to pretend I'm a hero or anything. But unfortunately, when you're the main focus of something like Money to the Masses, you don't really get a day off when you're sick. But I'll work from the comfort of my bed.
Good. Until next week.
Until next week.
Don't forget to claim your free copy of Damien's best-selling book, The 30-Day Money Plan. Sort your finances in just 5 minutes a day, worth $4.99. Just go to moneytothemasses.com/podcast to find out how.